Jesus is the foundation and leader of his church. We're answering the question, what is the binding and loosing Jesus discussed with his disciples? Have you ever heard a joke about the pearly gates of heaven? Peter's always stationed outside the gate, restricting access, and he's deciding who gets in, who is rejected. How did that notion arise? It's from the following Bible passage. The Bible says, "And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." It sounds like Jesus gave Peter the keys to heaven. Could that be correct? If it were true, Peter would be the judge of all. We know that's not true, because Jesus is the judge. The Bible says, "When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left." According to the Bible, Jesus is the judge. Hence, Peter has not become God who decides the fate of all. So what does the keys of heaven passage in the Bible mean? Jesus was explaining to his disciples that he was the foundation of his kingdom. How could it be otherwise? Jesus was telling his disciples that they had the keys to heaven. What are those keys? Jesus sent his disciples to preach the gospel to all people. If people were converted, they gained access to heaven. By spreading the gospel, Jesus' disciples were effectively giving out invitations to heaven. By preaching the gospel, they were binding and loosing people for access to heaven. By preaching the gospel, they were loosing people from Satan and binding people to Jesus. Those who preach the gospel have the keys to God's kingdom, because they are privileged to instruct the people on how to gain access to the kingdom. They bring light to darkness. Thus, the key to the kingdom is the good news about Jesus sacrificing himself so that people can have access to heaven. Because of the Great Commission, every follower of Christ has the same claim to the keys of heaven. The Bible says, "And Jesus said unto them, Go ye into all the world, and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned." Jesus gave the keys of his kingdom to every follower. By preaching the gospel, they can free Satan's captives and open the doors of heaven for those who believe. Have more questions about God's church? Read the book, Try the Spirits. It's available at the website, BibleSite.com. The head of the church is Jesus.